I've heard that song only a million times, and I promise it does something to my spirit every time I hear it. But today we are talking about love and basically how it applies to our spiritual growth. And for me, or just all of us, I guess, in this room, love was shown the greatest when Christ died on the cross. Okay, so today I'm going to go over some of the things that love is and what it's not. All right. Because I like to get all the bad out the way, let's go ahead and start with what love is not. And feel free to come up and comment at any point. All right. So I have on here love is not. And then there is social status, infatuation, lust is not conditional, it's not your money, it's not based on loyalty, it's not passive, and it's not tolerated. And I mean that in the sense of you're not going to tolerate something that's not considered to be love and call it love. And it's not abuse, control, or manipulation. All right? So the first thing I said was that love is not based on our social status, it's not based on money or gifts. So therefore, the very thought of marriage being a way to gain them is an immature process, a thought process for love. So I have three different gifts here, right? And if I can just have three different people come up, it doesn't matter. That's fine. Just grab a gift, and then I would like for you to stand here and open your gift. All right. All right. So turn around. Hold the shirt up. It's okay. So it's not gonna be technically for you, but yes, yes. All right. So please read what your shirt says, sir. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm a very visual person. I think it comes from like where I used to teach, so I have my little props.
It says, oh, I can't really show you. But love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It is it keeps no records of wrongs. It does not delight in evil, rejoices with the truth, always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres, and never fails.
All right, so those are all the characteristics that we would love to see when you think about your relationship or what love is, right? So Tyree, turn around a little bit so that I can see. Go that way to the side a little bit. So it says love is patient. Have you guys ever dealt with an impatient person, right? You think about how that makes you feel. It's kind. It doesn't envy. Skip all the way down. It says it keeps no record of wrongdoing. Okay? So when we think about our relationship with God and all the things that we've done that people around us, our friends, our family, they know about or that they don't know about, but you think about the fact that God knows about everything that we've ever done that's wrong. But yet, He still loves us unconditionally. All right. Always trust, always hopes, never fails. Never fails. You can give that one to Miss Ebony. All right, next one.
Alright, it says love is a noun. On the back, it says commitment to the well being of others without conditions.
All right. So commitment to the well-being of others without conditions. That goes back to thank you, Terry. You can go that way. So you think about what I said earlier about God's love being unconditional. All right. Kiara, what was in your gift? All right. And so then this gift had money in it. All right. Right. But what's funny is when I walked in with the gifts, Lily asked me who they were for. Jemiah asked what was in the Gucci bag. right? Because she wanted what was in the bag, but it goes back to the fact that love isn't based on our gifts. All right? You guys can keep what you have or you can give it back. It's totally up to you. You sure can. Thank you for your help. All right. So on here, I also have love is considered to be grace. And when we read our Bible, I actually had to look up to see how many times love was mentioned in the Bible, and it's over 300 times. That's both Old and New Testament. And if anything that you ever come in contact with as far as reading the Bible, you hear about God talking about His grace being sufficient for everything. The very first thing that we notice when God shows us His love is His sacrifice with His Son on the cross. He repeatedly tells us that His love is unconditional, but He also shows us discipline in everything that He does, varying from when the disciples first started on to to Christ's death on the cross. All right. Going back to what love is not, it says loyalty is not love. And it's funny because when we were told what we were going to be doing as far as the series, the Lord began to deal with me in the shower every morning. And it's so funny because when you're in the shower, you can't write down what's coming to you. And I promise you, it's like, okay, do I want to make this a quick shower or do I want to like try to? Because trying to remember everything that comes when you're in the shower is not, it's not an easy task at all. Okay, but these are some of the things that I remembered from him saying it, even with him dealing with me on personal things. All right, it says infatuation is not love, and love is not passive. It takes action. A word that I've been, personally dealing with in my life is about intention. And for me, love is intentional. So everything that we do, it boils down to what we're doing from our heart and what we're doing on purpose. Okay? God's love for you is pure, it's trustworthy, and it's constant. All right? Sorry. Coming from someone who dealt with a transition a few years ago, I dealt with a lot of, feelings and thoughts of, not being worthy enough to be here and, just different tricks of the enemy on my mind and things like that. But the one thing that God reminded me recently was that love doesn't play victim. Okay? And in any and everything that you do, you always play a part to certain extents. Let me say that because for situations that you can't control, you know, like the things that we deal with as children, things that we can't control, we have no part as far as to play in it. But as an adult, every choice that we make, every choice that we make has a consequence. It has a pro and a con to it, whether we want to openly admit at that time that it's there or not. All right. It says God forgives, covers, protects, provides, heals, restores, reveals, rewards, establishes, and demonstrates his continued grace, mercy, and power in our lives. And he does that just by everything that he does for us. You think about any decision that you've ever had to come in contact with or come and make on your own. God will always show you his love based upon him either giving you what you want or him not allowing you to enter into what you think that you want. And a lot of times we have to be okay with it and understand that God's love is always going to protect us from ourselves first and then from everybody else that comes in contact. So no matter if you've had bad experiences in your life or anything, God uses all of that stuff for our good and his word tells us that. So everything that we can think that, oh well, where was God when this God was in the midst of it? He didn't just allow it for no reason. Everything that we do has a purpose behind it, whether or not we can see it at that time or not. And I think that's where the growth comes in is understanding that, the things that we go through, whether we put ourselves in those situations or not, we take those things and once we give them to God, we're able to prosper. The one thing that I wrote down was in order to give true love, you have to accept God's love. You cannot tell someone that you love them and you don't love God. You can't. It's impossible to love someone the right way if you don't love God. It's impossible to love somebody the right way if you don't love yourself. Because what'll happen is you'll take all the things, all the feelings, all the emotions, everything that you have, you'll take it and you'll put it on them. And you'll cause them to have to carry a burden that they're not intended to carry. So that's not love right there. I put on here anyone who claims to love you but does not encourage or hold you accountable to God's will does not love you, nor do they know love themselves. Want me to say that again? Anyone who claims to love you but does not encourage or hold you accountable to God's will does not love you or know love themselves. How can I show you love if I don't know it? How? I can't. There's no way possible for me to love somebody and I hate myself. And going back to the word love, think about how many times on a daily basis we use that word so loosely. We love your hair. We love your shoes. Oh, girl, I love that jacket. But it's not interchangeable. You should use like in those places because you can't like it's when it comes to material things. There's no such thing as love. There isn't. Love has substance. Love has it is reproducible. It's not just something that's there. It's not. It takes you being an active participant in it. All right. It says we can have bitterness, hate, resentment, criticism, sarcasm, pride, or arrogance in love. And this spoke to me when he said it because for me, I can be a very sarcastic person. And not to the point where I'm trying to be hurtful, but for me, it's like a defense mechanism to a certain extent. And I have to, I guess for me, it's like I had to like relinquish that. And I can still have my moments where I am, but in order for me to truly like let love penetrate, I have to let go of that. The same thing with being bitter or having resentment in your heart. For criticism, it's just being critical of those around you. Every time somebody makes a move, every time they say something, you shouldn't have to criticize what they're saying. Now, if it contradicts the word of God, then yes. But just because somebody says to you, hey, sis, you shouldn't be doing this, or hey, sis, you shouldn't be wearing this, hey, bro, let me come talk to you for a second about this, your heart should be open enough to know that they're coming to you in love instead of you coming, or instead of when they come to you, you have your wall built up. Because that's not love. What you saying to them is what they say don't matter and that you really don't want to deal with them. So tell them that. I said that one. All right. God loves us enough to have a plan in place for our lives, even if and when we decide to run off course. And I got that one from Jeremiah 29:11. It says, God's discipline should be seen strictly as correction to get us back on track. A lot of times we want the things that God has for us, but we don't want to go through the process. We don't want to be disciplined and conditioned into whatever it is that God's molding us into. We want the instant satisfaction of whatever we're asking God for. Well, on Monday or on Sunday, I gave my life to God. And by Tuesday, God, I need a new job. I need a new house. I'm not married, so I need to be married. I'm ready to have kids. Like, we want everything to happen right away, but we don't think about how long it took us to get to the point of accepting God, to allow God to come into our hearts and change us, to trust God. Because that takes it, that's a part of love as well, is you have to be able to trust who God is in our lives and what the plan is that He has for us. God's love will always protect you, and it always looks out for your best interest. Okay. I don't know if I said this, but it says God's love for you is pure. So when we think about everything that God has ever done for us, it's always been with a pure intention. It's always been with what we need in mind behind whatever it is, whether it's taking someone out of your life, whether it's bringing someone to your life, whether it's losing a job, you know coming on hard times. You ever think about the fact that a lot of the times we love God the most when we need Him the most. You know what I'm saying? When you've hit rock bottom, everything is, oh God, please help me with this. Everything is. If you really think about it, everything is when I've hit rock bottom, that's when I need God the most. So at that very, when you've hit your totem pole or when you've hit rock bottom, we will go hard for God. But is that love or is it based upon a condition? That's conditional love. But you know what? Regardless of us having conditions for God, He is always unconditional with His love for us. Always. All right. I have a couple of verses here too. I have, of course, the first one about God's sacrifice would be John 3:16, which we all know. So I will spare you on that. But turn with me to Romans 8. The first verse would be 28. Chapter 8, verse 28. Sure. Perfect. So, in my version says, we know with great confidence. So you have to be confident that God loves you and that He will do anything for you. You know how you have that one friend or the many family members that say, "Oh, girl, I got your back. I will literally do anything for you." But when times get rough, are they there for you? You know, in that deep dark place, can you, without shame, go to them and tell them how you're really feeling? 9 times, I say even 6 times out of 10, it's not the case. You know, there have been things where I've been feeling or anything like that, and I think about that person who would say to me that, but I can't even go to them out of fear of being judged or shamed. But I know I can go to a God who loves me openly and without Him holding anything over my head. Okay? And when you go down to 31, it says, "What then shall we say to all these things? If God is for us, who can be successful against us? He who did not spare even His own Son, but gave Him up for us all, how will He not also, along with Him, graciously give us all things?" So you think about it, somebody that's willing to sacrifice his very own for us, for people that He knew would not even do right at all, who wouldn't follow Him with everything that we have. Even if He gave us everything that we wanted, we still wouldn't do right. We would go way left, and I'll catch God on the next week. Won't even show up on Sunday, let alone on a Wednesday for Bible study. Yeah. Oh yes, unless you need a prayer. And that money looking low or whatever the case, whatever it is God bless you with, it's looking a little funny right now. That's when you'll come back. All right. It says, "Who will bring any charge against God's elect, His chosen ones? It is God who justifies us, declaring us blameless and putting us in a right relationship with Himself. Who is the one who condemns us? Christ Jesus is the one who died to pay our penalty, and more than that, who was raised from the dead and who is at the right hand of God, interceding with the Father for us. Who shall ever separate us from the love of Christ? Will tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or danger, or sword? Just as it is written and forever remains written, for your sake we are put to death all day long. We are regarded as sheep for the slaughter. Yet in all these things we are more than conquerors and gain an overwhelming victory through Him who loved us so much that He died for us." How many of your friends will die for you? How many? I can't think of one. And then if I, that's being completely honest, I can't think of any. Fight might be something else, but die. All right. I also believe that love it requires a mature heart because I was thinking about the other day when I was driving. I was like, I remember being in fifth grade, and there was this little boy who liked me, and my mom thought it was cute. My dad, he was like, typical dad, like, what you got going on? But they go through that phase of saying, oh, it's puppy love, and well, but what is puppy love? Like, does it show you how you're supposed to love people? Like, what exactly is puppy love? And then you think about as you get older and the things that we do to gain the attention of the opposite and what we declare to be love, right? But do we do those same things with God? No. So you think about it, you'll stay up late talking on the phone, but you won't stay up 5 minutes to talk to God. You'll go out to God knows where. You ain't supposed to be, but you won't even show up at church. But we say we love God, right? We love Him, but we just won't show up for Him. We won't. We're absent. God is the only one who loves us, but we say with our mouth that we love Him, but our actions say otherwise. Let's see. All right. So one more verse. I have First Peter. No, I don't. I'm telling. It's Psalm 94, 12 through 14. 12 through 14, but specifically 14. All right, so 13 starts off by saying that you may grant him power to calm himself and find peace in the days of adversity, until the pit is dug for the wicked and ungodly. For the Lord will not abandon his people, nor will he abandon his inheritance. That just goes back to what I was saying about who's in your corner and who's going to stay in that corner, whether it's good times or bad times. Right? Because the person that you think is going to be there and it come up on higher times, they won't be. They won't be at all. I went over, yeah, went over everything. You guys have any questions or comments or anything? Don't start. You guys want to tell me about a time where you thought you were in love or that you thought somebody loved you? Wait, go for it. No? Really? Right.
At least three. I thought about it before I got up. No, uh, this is a very tough subject, but because we're talking about love, I'm gonna talk about this. There was a time I grew up without my father, and I was going through tough times with my mom at 17. Um, and from 17 to 20, it was like I don't know, David and Goliath button heads. I can't even really put a name to what was happening with my mom, but everything was just falling apart. And my dad came in out of nowhere and convinced me that he was gonna what's funny is even when I get around him, even when my uncle died earlier this year or late last year, it was very uncomfortable for me because I know love and because I've experienced love. I look at my dad and I'm like, you do not love me. You love the idea of me. You love to be able to say, oh, that's my son. You love to be able to say, oh, I did this and I did that. And I'm like, but what happened all those years? So, you know, I don't know. It's just a tough topic for me, but um, yeah. When I learned about love, I realized who really loved me.
I like that. The idea of a thing, the idea of love. Because, I mean, like we said with the whole puppy love comment, the thought of us being in high school and loving somebody, it's an idea of it leads back to infatuation, lust, and, social status and things like that. What that person can do for me, not necessarily the whole issue of actually loving the person at all. And sometimes it takes us going through the very worst of what we consider to be love to actually find out and understand true love when it approaches our door. Think about that. Go ahead.
Before you were about to wrap up, you said a time
Huh?
where you relied on a person that you thought loved you that would come in and help you in your time of need or whatever. Sometimes God will let that fall through so that all you know is God's
That's
love at
right.
that point.
That's right.
So you might have thought like this person really loves me. I'm gonna go to them and they're gonna help me. And God's like, oh no, 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 they're not gonna help you. You need to rely on me in this moment.
That's funny. I was talking to a girl before I left work. I'll spare the details, but basically, she was deceived into someone making her feel like they loved her. And I told her, I said, because they had cut off all communication. And I said, maybe that was God's way of telling you that that wasn't love. And I mean, she sat there and she watched me write out my stuff. And it was just funny because I never intended to have a conversation about love with her or anything of the sort. And, we just sat there and we talked, but she was really broken up about the thing. And I said, a lot of times God will remove people from your life that mean you no good at all. But you have to be okay with it.
Oh no, I kind of it's like an intro to what I was going to talk about. But I'm not going to go into details. But the story of today. No one's going to go into details. But um, but I know from my experience when it comes to love, um, I'm not saying I didn't come from a loving household. My mom was pretty loving, but I also came from a household full of like hatred and bitterness. So I feel like there still was a lack when it came to love. So I feel that it wasn't until, honestly, as it may sound cliche, but it wasn't until I came to this church is when I actually started seeing what love really is. Because I know when I fell in love the first time, it was like a leech type of love. It wasn't, or I mean, it wasn't real love, but it's what I thought love was at that time. So what I'm trying to say is, the conclusion what I'm trying to get to was that I feel like it's unfortunate. Like love is it's a scary place. It's a scary place because you don't know what it is. If you've never been shown what true love is, you only grow from you only I can't think of the word, but you only act on what you know. No, I know I'm doing this, but that's not what it is. That's me thinking physically. No, that's not what. But but no, what I'm trying to say, what I'm just trying to say is like, love is just kind of a scary place to be in, and you have to kind of take risk, and you as you go into Christ, I think it shows as you if okay once Christ gets into your once Christ gets into your life, it shows that you're hesitant in trusting Him, you're hesitant in showing Him love. So of course you go what you're used to. You go with hanging out with people late at night instead of hanging out with God late at night. So it's basically
right. That's why it's important that once we tap in and we accept God's love, is that it makes it easier for us to show it. Go ahead.
I think when we think about love, also, we oftentimes go right into relationships and marriage. And, like, even though we're talking about love, we're talking about the love of God, it also takes me back to marriage vows. And whenever you're at the altar and you're promising you're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to love this and love that. But even though we're saying it and we mean it in the moment, we don't recognize that even our love has a contingency that shouldn't be there. Because it's easy when you're standing there in your dress or when your husband is there in his suit. Oh, I'm going to love you because, we look real good today. And I'm excited about what's going on when we leave here. So I'm in love, love, love. But what happens is that love's still there whenever sickness comes or whenever, finances aren't in place or if there's infidelity, God forbid, or if there are real life, things that happen in relationships. And I think we have the definition of love misconstrued because of Hollywood and because of social media and because of all of that. So we see it as, oh, I'm running in the field and it's birds chirping and it's rainbows everywhere. But can you still love them when it's a tornado that's in the distance? So I think we have to have balance when we're talking about love. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, like with all of the mess that we do, with all that we've said, with all that God knows about us, even knowing, okay, yeah, I see you crying at the altar right now, but next week you're going to do something real stupid. And he still loves us. Where if it's us, if I know that you're going to lie to me or that you're going to reject me or that you're going to steal from me, I'm going to make up in my mind, okay, try it. I'm going to be ready to fight you. I'm going to be ready to tell your business and whatever. But we have to ask ourselves, do I really love enough or do I really love the right way? We know how to love because the song say, I love God. We know how to love, L-U-H, which ain't real, but not many of us can genuinely love despite wrongdoings, despite what we think, despite flaws, even with our children. When our children mess up, do we just stop loving them? You know what, Armand? We're not supposed to. but but that's real. So we just have to, ask God to help us with our love language and then our love actions to make sure that it lines up with His words.
I like that.
So don't lose
Like,
Armand for nothing.
don't do it. I love that. So I came across a verse, Ephesians 3, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through your faith. And may you, having been deeply rooted and securely grounded in love, be fully capable of comprehending with all the saints, that's being God's people, the width and length and height and depth of His love, fully experiencing that amazing, endless love. And that's all through Christ. So if you don't start there, you are never going to truly experience it. You'll always be looking for material things. You'll always be looking for a person. You'll never be satisfied. But once you accept God's love, at that point you can be satisfied. And we have to understand, even in love, you have to learn how to forgive. And for many of us, that's a hard place. That's a hard thing because when people hurt you or whatever the case, you don't want to forgive them. You don't need much less want to talk to them. Yeah, if you have to.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. I had a question.
Okay.
Oh, so I just realized that on the board you said that love is not loyalty. Can you explain that? Because from my understanding, I would think love would be loyalty because, you are willing to sacrifice, you're willing to go the distance for that person. So,
Yes. But
but
I love it. Okay. So, and this was in the shower, I promise. So, yes, it's always in the shower, right? So, loyalty, right? When God said loyalty is not the same thing as love, it completely caught me off guard because I'm like, well, what do you mean? You would think that I have to be loyal to this person. I have to do, but if God tells you to move from that person, are you gonna be loyal? Are you gonna be obedient? That because I love my job. I love what I do, right? But I can't be loyal to them if God tells me to move. And I got to move when He tell me to move because obedience trumps it trumps loyalty at any given time. So yes, loyalty. Another thing that he made me think about was the fact that we mistake loyalty for love. Just because we'll do whatever we're asked to do, that's not love. It's not. Because if somebody telling you to do the wrong thing and you're doing it because you're loyal to them, they don't love you and you don't love yourself enough to say no. No, it's not at all. Yep. Because God's love will always point you back in the direction of Christ. Every time. Every time. And anytime it falls short or it lacks, it's not God. It's not. And you'll know the difference. You'll feel the difference. You will like love is not draining. It's not. It's not draining. It's not um what do I want to say? It's not I don't it's not a weight. It's not heavy. Like you think about every time God tells us if we're weighed down to bring us his burden or to bring him our burdens. Why? Because he doesn't want us to have to carry the load unnecessarily. Why am I carrying Armand's junk? Why am I carrying Jolene's junk just because I say I love them? That's not love. That's not because that's hurting me. That's causing me not to be able to sleep at night because they don't want to do right. That's not love. It's not. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, you good. While you were talking, I was going to read the definition of loyalty, but while you were talking, God brought to my mind the verse that said, "The blessings of the Lord make one rich and add
Addeth
no
no
sorrow."
sorrow.
So if it's adding sorrow to you, it's probably not a blessing from the Lord.
It's not.
But the definition of loyalty is the state of being faithful, committed, or obligated to a person, place, or thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we love because some of us have been committed to the wrong thing, be it habits, be it mindsets, be it whatever. For instance, if a woman is in an abusive relationship and she's loyal to that man, he's beating on her, but she's committed to the relationship, that's not love. But oftentimes we figure, well, because I'm loyal to you, that means I love you, but not necessarily. According to this, if you're faithful to it, we can be faithful to the wrong thing, and then it ends up hurting us in the long run.
That's right. And on the board, I also put that love is not tolerance. Um, and it goes back to what you said, Pastor Ebony. But also, like God gave me that because like I said, we're dealing when you are given a subject or a topic, it resonates with you first. And I just think about my first marriage, and I remember our pastor at the time telling us, "You don't love him, you tolerate him." And at the time, I had no idea what that meant because I'm like, no, I really do love him. But when I sat and I really considered that thing, a lot of the behaviors was because of me allowing it, me tolerating those things. And not that either one of us are bad people or anything like that, but it was toxic. And if you love yourself enough, you can admit those things and you no longer play victim and you do the necessary things that you have to exactly to detox yourself from the situation, whether that's a temporary thing, whether it's a permanent thing. It's unknown at that time, but it's all well worth it in the end. Go ahead.
So I was gonna talk about the loyalty thing as well, and Pastor Ebony hit it right on the nose. A lot of people consider loyalty and love together because you know you're used to it. You spend so much time with a specific person or specific people, and sometimes you don't realize that eventually love changes to loyalty. Let's say that the love leaves. You don't and you don't move because you're loyal, because you're afraid of new, because you're afraid of change, and so you replace love with loyalty, and you leave love behind. So I remember that happened with me for so many years. So think about that.
That's good. And another thing with love, huh? Oh, sorry. Another thing with love too, you think about it, it is able to break strongholds. If you love right, it'll break those strongholds. If you love right, if you accept God's love, it'll deteriorate everything that's ever been built up against you, whether that's from yourself or it's from someone else. Once you truly accept God's love, nothing, and I mean nothing, can even stand in the way of it unless you allow it. And that's it. Like when I think about God's love and you know, him teaching me how to properly love. When I think about him showing me how to self love, because you do have to love yourself enough to want something different. You have to love yourself enough to seek God for him to show you how to love. All of those things are important, but if your focus is constantly on everything else except for God, you'll never truly grasp the concept of love. Never. It'll always be a foreign thing for you, and you'll always mistake what should be, or what the movies portray as what love really is, until you're in a situation and it's like, wait, I don't know love to be this thing, but love is work. Love is work. It's not easy. Because can you imagine if God responded the way that we respond when it comes to love? Can you imagine that? Like, the way that I deal with people, or the way that you deal with somebody, there's no way in the world that if we were to trade places with God, that his response would be the same. It's not. Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. So, okay, so this lady at my job, I was at work, I was having a great day. This lady at my job, she wasn't having such a good day. I speak to everybody, right? Good morning, so and so. Good morning, so and so. Good morning, so and so. So she came in kind of late. So I was at my desk, I was working. I saw her. I said good morning. She didn't say nothing. I was like, at my desk, she couldn't see my face. So I'm like,
I know she heard me.
I know in my head, I thank God people can't read my thoughts because my thoughts be off the chain. I was like, I know this chick didn't walk by me and didn't speak, and I'm loud. I'm very vocal. So I didn't say anything. So I said, okay, okay, God, she having a bad day. So I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm gonna just let her do whatever she doing. So I was talking with another young lady. She came into my office, and I was talking to her, and she was like, "Ugh, y'all so loud." So I said, I was at my desk. I turned around, spitting around in that chair. And the lady that was in my office, she says, she never saw me like that, and I was like, and I just spent around the chair. It's like I gotta do stuff to not,
Do stuff.
because I'm like I say, I'm very vocal, and I will tell you like it is in a very professional manner, but I make you feel like this. I'm very sarcastic. Like, so MC Hammer, you know. So so I was like, I just spent around in the chair, and then the lady, I was like, okay, let me gather my thoughts. I was like, I didn't say anything, so I ignored it. So I said, okay. I was talking to the Lord, and I was like, okay, God, like, I need you to handle that, because if you don't, you know me, and I know me, and I don't want that to come out. So I need my job, okay? So I said, she said something else, and then she went. It was like it was loud, and she was like, "Y'all being too loud." And I said, "No, we're not." I had, that's just me. I said, "No, we're not." I kind of remind myself of John Wayne a little bit. I said, "No, we're not. We're not being loud." I said, "You were loud earlier," and I said, and I was going, tick for tack, like, but I kept it kind of calm, still in the professional realm. And she was like, "Yes, you were." And I guess she wasn't expecting it from me, because I'm the one, I always smile. I'm always, "Hey, how you doing?" I always, if I see this one don't like this one, I'll end up doing something or saying something, and they'll end up getting together. They don't realize that they're talking until after. Felt like, dang, did we just talk? Yes, you did just talk. So I was like, this chick is getting on my nerves right now. So I said, no, we're not. And then I remember I said something else. And then she said something. So she ended up, because I left kind of, I was very upset, because I wanted to say what I really wanted to say, but I didn't. So I left. I ended up leaving that area. I ended up taking a walk, going to a meeting, and then I came back, and then somebody else went and told a supervisor what had happened. So because they overheard, and then it just got out of hand. So, needless to say, the supervisor was like, she said, I, well, some things were said because I know it's recording. So some things were said, and needless to say, people know you from like who you are, like how you treat people, how you speak to people, how you mediate things. And it was like, that's not her. So I mean, if you have a question, don't assume come ask me. Don't ask this one, that one, because I'm one. I'll just tell you. So she was like, she left me a voicemail. I saw her number on my phone, my cell phone, and I was like, the nerve of this chick to call me and didn't even, and then the words that she said, and I shouldn't have been that way, but I was. I am, little girl. So I said, I didn't answer. So she left me a voicemail, and I was like, oh, she left me a voicemail. Let me see what she said. She apologized. And she said, I apologize. I was having a bad day. You're a very nice person. And I shouldn't have said what I said to you. It wasn't you, it was me. And if I would have, I could have handled that differently. And I could have said, you're probably having a bad day. And come to find out, I was talking about her, not in a bad way. You got to be careful who you text. So I was talking about her, and I ended up texting. I said, not today, Satan. I said, no, I said, don't allow Satan to use such and such, because somebody was at their desk, and I texted her that message. Cause her name was on my mind. I texted her that message, and so, yeah, one of those. So I'm glad I ain't had no names in there, but and then if she heard it or she said, I would have told her, yes, I was talking about you. It was you, but I didn't. And she was like, she read the message. She was like, I know that's right. Not today, Satan. I mean, she was like in agreement, but I was talking about you. But but needless to say, the fruit of the story, what I was saying is, we have to be mindful of our responses when people react to us certain ways, and we still have to show love to that person. She apologized to me, and she showed love by apologizing to me. And I was like, I'm gonna keep speaking to her, even if she don't speak. Not that same day, but I'm gonna keep speaking to her and say, hey, how you doing? If you don't speak, I'm keep going, but it's okay. I'm not gonna treat you like you treat me. I'm gonna treat you how God will have us, because we're His hands and His feet in the earth.
That is so funny. I had a similar phone call today. I had a resident, and I've been working with them for the last 3 or 4 months. And when I first got on the phone with him, he gave me the business lip service. I'm talking about all kinds of f bombs and all. And for me, when I hear stuff like that, one or two things happens. I tone out, or I'm gonna respond. I tone him out, and I sent him an email um, as like a to no, not as a warning, but like to remind him what we had discussed on the phone, because he owes some money. That's a long another story. But anyway, so he owes money. So he called me today. Now we've been back and forth talking, emailing, and it's been cordial since that first day. But he called me today, and he was like, he was like, Miss Stewart. He was like, that's your last name, right? And I was like, yeah, because on my Stewart. And so he was like, Miss Stewart, he was like, I really want to apologize to you about our very first conversation. Mind you, I wasn't thinking about that because that happened 3, 4 months ago. So I was like, it's fine. And he was like, no. He was like, there's no reason for me to act like a barbarian on the phone. He was like, you're not the reason or the cause for any of this stuff. You just doing your job. And I was like, you're absolutely right. I wasn't even, no, I was no longer thinking about our first encounter, because to me, and this is just how I am with anybody, I will continue to talk to you and I'll continue to deal with you even after you burnt me, which is not always a good thing. But that's just my personality. Like, I've been through some of the worst things, but I still interact and I still talk with people like they've never hurt me. And verse for that, teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus replied to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. That is, unselfishly seek the best or higher good for others. The whole law and the writings of the law, prophets, depends on these two commandments. So just imagine the greatest law is to love, even when it's not easy. The greatest law is to love. So that means, like I said, people who have hurt me, but I still find it in my heart to forgive them and sweep whatever the issue is under the rug. And like I said, it's not always the easiest. It's not always the best thing to do, but I don't know. It's how I've been wired. Like it's like God Himself showed me unconditional love, and literally I show people the same kind of love. Like literally, you don't believe that, Harrison? That's fine. That's fine. But literally, it's the same thing. I've been through some rough stuff, but you would never know because I'm constantly with a smile on my face. And for me, when you leave my presence, I don't hold that. Like I'm not easy to hold a grudge, no matter how big or how small the situation is. It's easier for me to let that go and move forward because I don't want to carry extra weight. I got enough. I don't want to carry your weight. I really don't. I'm just being honest. But I mean, when we think about love, we have to be willing to forgive. We have to be willing to, push past those physical burdens. We have to be able to allow it to break chains within us. We have to be able to help our brother and our sister, even when they get on our last nerves. And all of that, it encompasses love. It just what it is. So I think that's everything, guys. If anybody has anything else, I'm open, but I'm done. Thanks, guys. Love y'all. For real, for real.
Let's give God another hand for Miss Chanisa on love. So next week, joy. Everybody say joy. You gotta say, so you can't say joy regular, you gotta say it sanctified. Joy. Next week, Miss Sparkle will be doing, also known as Star, will be doing, will be doing. Lord, I call people what I want to call them. How you call people? I call Jolene forever. Listen, I call you what I feel in the spirit or in the flesh, whichever one. Uh, we have a star in the house. Come up, sweetheart, please. Stand up. Come on. Come on. You gonna say something? Please. Come on, say hey. You gonna at least say hey? Now watch this. Yes.
Hi.
Miss Darlene, at least she's consistent. That thing is consistent. We're so proud of you. We are so. Jess, something she need to say this. Give us a report from the university. How's it going? How you doing? We missed you. If your mama say something. Like the East speech. I just gonna say hey.
It's going well. I don't.
We missed you. What?
I mean, I'm here. I'm open. I'm open to hugs, I guess.
How the grades?
They're good.
How's